I'm on the movie, been the foundation. It's time to move. 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 Yeah, it's time to move. 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 Hey, it's time to move. It's time to move.
Hello everyone and good day, D here with DJR Union, and today we're going to be covering some old news and some new news from the Japan side of things over in Union Arena. So first things first, I just want to get started by saying, hey, how's everyone doing? Hope you guys are doing well. That's it. That's all. I hope you guys are doing well. Now we're going to jump right into this. So what we have here are some cards, and as you can see, we get some like really cool art, and as some pretty eagle-eyed viewers can probably tell already right off the bat, is that first of all, we don't have Dr. Stone, and second of all, YuYu Hakusho isn't out yet. But when you look at it, we don't have Volume 2 of Demon Slayer as well yet either. But if you look at these three cards, something that we do have is Code Geass and Code Geass Volume 2. We don't have these arts. We don't have these arts as well. And if you're even more eagle-eyed or know how to read Japanese a little, you can tell that the text on these cards are different than cards that we've seen in our current sets. So back in August, they had a whole battle that went on where you were able to get new cards for sets that were already released, which I think is absolutely incredible. I think it's amazing that sets are still getting updates to this day, even though their Volume 2s are already out, like Code Geass. That's been out for a while over in Japan, but they're still getting an update. Same thing with Demon Slayer, and Dr. Stone and YuYu Hakusho don't have a Volume 2, but they're still getting new cards as well. In this update of, as you saw, 3 cards per set, which is really nice. However, recently, they also announced that they're doing it again in September, featuring Shy, 2.5 Dimensional Girlfriend, and One Punch Man, which is the main thing that I'm going to be focusing on. I'm going to be focusing on the English releases. I'm not going to focus on anything from the Japanese side of things, except for YuYu Hakusho, since we are going to be getting YuYu Hakusho next month. So I do want to cover these cards that are new cards that are coming to the sets. However, I also want to do a little bit of speculation, and I want to cover that right now before we dive into what these cards can do. So, as I mentioned before, this was released in August over in Japan, these 3 cards. Or literally last month. However, we also got Code Geass Volume 2 at the end of last month, making it seem like, okay, I would have thought that they would have included these 3 cards in the Volume 2 set with whatever we got. However, when it comes to the English release of Volume 2, we do not have the 4-1 Lelouch. As you can see here, we don't have the 4-2 Colin. And last but not least, we also do not have the 1-1 C2. So, at first I would think that they would include some of these extra cards into the Volume 2 sets. However, since it would have been a simultaneous release for Japan and for the American version, I can see them kind of restraining on putting the cards into a Volume 2 set, not knowing the impact of these cards, especially considering how it's an afterthought to Volume 2 and not an inclusion to Volume 2. However, and when I say however, this is more so of a thought process to some of the future sets that we're going to be getting. As you see here, we got these cards included into our Volume 1 of Demon Slayer. However, these cards were included as an afterthought to Volume 1 when it came to Demon Slayer. These were the Hashira cards that also featured Tanjiro and Nezuko that heavily enhanced a lot of the decks that were in yellow for Demon Slayer. However, we got it included in Volume 1 while it was an afterthought in Japan, probably to enhance our experience with the decks, considering how a lot of the decks that we were dealing with at the time were at a pretty decent power level, and to have these decks be at a lower power level than what we were used to would be a real turnoff for a lot of people, especially if you were into Demon Slayer. So my speculation does stem from this concept. Yes, we did not receive the buff to Volume 2 for Code Geass. However, if you remember, I did post a video that we're talking about cards for the store tournament volume that starts next month, where we are getting a brand new Asta card that wasn't included in the original release of Black Clover. However, we're getting it through store tournaments, which is very similar to how they were getting these cards through different tournaments that they were given access to. So, while we could be seeing a lot of these cards come to us in the form of a store tournament, maybe at the start of next year, my speculation is that while we'll see these cards, and possibly even the YuYu Hakusho cards coming in the next month, I feel like Demon Slayer Volume 2 is far enough away to where we'll see that included in the Volume 2 set. I don't know. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but that's currently what I'm thinking at the moment. Again, we won't know until we see the next announcement for the store tournaments and then some future stuff when it comes to YuYu Hakusho's release, as well as Demon Slayer Volume 2's release. Once we get those card announcements, we'll know for sure if they are going to be coming in the Volume 2 set or the YuYu Hakusho set, or if they're going to be coming in a store tournament. However, like I said, One Punch Man cards. We already have One Punch Man in the set, so obviously we're going to be seeing this as a store tournament feature, unless of course they do plan to, since the One Punch Man Season 3 is coming out soon, unless they do indeed plan to include these into the Volume 2 of One Punch Man for the English release when it officially releases, probably sometime next year, depending on how One Punch Man Season 3 goes. So yeah, without further ado, now that I've done talking about the fact that these cards exist and everything, I'm going to be jumping into what they do and talk about how I think these cards can pretty much enhance some of the decks that we have now. Some of these cards I know, some of these cards I don't know, so you will be getting my raw reaction for all of them now. So for Code Geass, we're going to start off here. Shout out to EXverse. I just want to say that real quick. EXverse, great website if you do want to look at some cards featured in the Japanese side of things. They have wonderful translations, so much easier to read than using a Google Chrome translation or something like that. So they really do a great job over there. So go over to EXverse, make sure you support them because they are doing wonderful work over there. So without further ado, let's jump into some Code Geass stuff. So first things first, we have 4-1 Lelouch Lamperouge, and this is what I mean. Look at this. You get to see the original card art, and then you even get to see the card art with the translation on it. The translation's easy to read, as well as it perfectly translates how, hey, look, this is the once return effect, and it like shows it in its color form over here. And I'm going to show you the comparison real quick. I just like, see what I mean? Compared to what you see over at EXverse, you can't really tell what this says or even this says. Although you can assume what it says based on how different cards work and like memorization and stuff. It's kind of hard to figure out exactly what they say. And then there will be some like translation problems in the actual text as well, so it does become a little bit more difficult to decipher them. However, we're not going to be dealing with this just yet because we will have to deal with it for one particular card set because they do not have the translations available yet on the EXverse, but we'll deal with that when we get to it. Lelouch Lamperouge, 4-1, 4 energy, 1 action, 4k BP character, get trigger, so you add this card to your hand, which is pretty nice. On play, when this card is played, if your opponent has a rested character on their field, choose up to one other character on your field and switch it to active. Now that's going to be really good when you have cards like Vincent, the Rolo fighter, because as we know, its effect is to, if it's on the front line, switch it to resting to rest an opponent. So after you do that, you can then play this Lelouch to play him. Then, after confirming that your opponent has a rested card, you may be able to switch that Vincent to active after it is already switched to resting for its own effect. Or if you don't have that situation going on, since Vincent Rolo Fighter's ability is not a once per turn ability, you can then rest Vincent Rolo Fighter, stand him back up, activate Lelouch's ability when he's played, stand up the Vincent, re-rest the Vincent to rest a different character, play another Lelouch, re-rest the Vincent, stand up the Vincent, re-rest him again to rest another character, play another Lelouch, and after using 3 of your action points, your entire opponent's front line is completely rested. That's crazy. Now, that's just a speculation of one idea that could happen. However, let's look at his main phase. Once per turn, can only be activated if your opponent has a rested character on your field. Choose one other character on your field to get 1k BP during this turn. Therefore, not only are you able to restand your Vincent Rolo Fighter, but you are also able to, in the same turn, give him 1k BP. So after resting one character on your opponent's field, stand him back up, give him 1k BP. He's now a 5k BP character coming in for a lot of damage, or a lot of BP, but for mostly 1 damage, as we all know how the game works. And it's good because now your opponent is forced to block a 5k BP character, and it's typically harder to block a 5 BP character rather than a 4 BP character if you have a 5 BP character on the field. But now we know that there's very few characters that could block that safely, namely Berthold. So already we're off to a really good card, and the fact that it's a get trigger, meaning that you can get it to your hand, means that you're going to be able to see this card a lot, like very frequently, as your games progress. And honestly, I feel like he's going to be a very good staple in the Rolo version of the deck in blue Code Geass. So moving forward, we now have Kalin Kozuki, 4 energy, 2 action at 4k BP. She has impact negate, nullify impact for those that aren't following the literal translation here. And when played, you get to choose up to 2 characters on your opponent's front line to lose 1k BP during this turn, which is really good considering how in the purple Code Geass deck you are focusing around Gawain, who also lowers the entire enemy's front line by 1k BP. Not to mention, if there is a Lelouch on your field, you get to choose one of these effects. You can either then instantly play her active, or you can make it so that she is essentially a 1 action point character and restand one of your AP cards. And that is really amazing because not only are you nerfing your opponent's field to lower their BP just a little bit more to probably get 1 or 2 kills off of the BP lowering abilities, but you're also able to have her come in active if you need to get some extra damage in, or you can switch an AP to active so that way you can use a kill card if you need to. It has great versatility, and honestly I can definitely see people running her in the deck because that deck with Gawain focuses heavily on 2 action point cards. And if that's not good enough proof, we have C2s that are in the deck that literally says, hey, if you use a 2 BP character or 2 AP character this turn, this effect activates. You get to draw an extra card, you get to switch an AP to active, stuff like that. And it's really good to see that they are getting more support in this way. Also, she's a get trigger, meaning that you will be seeing this card more often as the game progresses, even if she's in life. It's really great. And the last card is a 1/1 C2 Ashford Academy Affinity at 1500 BP plus. Now what does the plus mean? We'll find out. So if you have 4 or more pizza cards in your outside area, your sideline, this character gets 1500 BP, and that is pretty good. So she's a 1/1 BP character, or 1/1 character, 1500 BP, but can be 3k BP if you're playing your deck right. She will be a 1 energy 3k BP character that you are going to be able to get out early game, and having 3k BP at the very early game is a very powerful thing indeed. So let's move on a little bit further to her when played ability. You get to choose one of these effects. You get to look at the top 7 cards of your deck, which is crazy. 7 cards deep is amazing. It's like the Lelouch color trigger that's in the deck. Reveal up to 1 trait pizza card among them and add it to your hand. Place the rest on the bottom of the deck in any order, and if you added a card to your hand, place one from your hand to the sideline. Or you can choose this effect where you may place an event card from your hand to the sideline, like a pizza trait card, and if you do, to draw a card. So either way, it's really good. You either get to search for a pizza card, or you get to draw or place a pizza card into the sideline to fuel that dichotomy, and then as a result be able to draw a card as well. And she does have an active trigger, so she is going to be able to help her defensively while she's focusing on putting those cards into the sideline. She'll be able to protect other cards that are on the field if she is in life, which isn't bad. She's not a essential card like the Lelouch or the Colin were, so it makes sense that she doesn't have that get trigger, but she is a really powerful card, especially at the 1 energy mark, because she can be that little bridge between your 0 cards and your 2 cards, or your 0 cards and your 3 cards in many cases. So you are going to be using her a lot, especially because of this ability to look at the top 7 cards of your deck and get a pizza card, which is the entire point of the deck. So honestly, props off to Code Geass, hats off to Code Geass, I should say, because these 3 cards are really good, and I can definitely see them having a huge amount of priority when it comes to deck building in the future for when we do receive those cards over in the English side of the game. So yeah, we're now going to move over to Demon Slayer. So looking at Demon Slayer, we do not have any blue cards yet for Demon Slayer, but we are going to receive a 0 energy Nezuko Kamado with an active trigger. So as you can see, we're going to be able to protect our team a little bit more with this Nezuko if she is in life. At 1k BP, that makes sense, she's a 0 energy card, but let's see what her ability is. When she is played, you can choose up to 1 Nichirin Sword Tanjiro Kamado on your field and set it to active, and if you rated a blue Tanjiro Kamado or Nezuko Kamado during this turn, draw 1 card. So without looking at any of the blue cards for Demon Slayer, we can instantly tell right now that we are going to be having a raid Tanjiro and a raid Nezuko when it comes to Volume 2 of Demon Slayer, which is pretty great. However, this Nichirin Sword Tanjiro Kamado, I have no idea what that is just based off of this text. So while I personally do know what this entails, and I cannot wait for Demon Slayer Volume 2 because I'm going to be building every single blue deck that is possible because I love blue and blue is amazing. Blue is the best color. I can tell you that having this Nichirin Sword switch to active is a very, very important thing to have happen for this deck, and to have it tied to the 0 energy Nezuko Kamado is really great. Not only does the 0 energy Nezuko Kamado fill up your 0 so you're able to play cards early on, but she also has a pretty great trigger that will help you protect your field as you're getting these Nichirin Swords, and as you're getting the Tanjiro and Nezuko's out onto your field, you're able to protect them if you decide to take a little bit of damage first and flip over this Nezuko Kamado in place of any other card. Now, don't get me wrong, I'd love a draw trigger over this, but having the ability to protect my characters and be able to safely block and protect my own life as a result, I think that's a pretty good ability. We won't know how good this ability will be until we start diving into what Blue Demon Slayer does, which we could do. Let us know in the comments if you want us to start diving into some of the Japanese side of things, get a little head start on stuff. We will. We might even do it without you saying it. I don't know. We'll find out. But we do kind of want to see if we have demand for it too. So yeah, let us know. So yeah, that's the blue Nezuko card that we're going to be seeing. Next up is a 5 energy, 1 action Akaza. So we are going to once again be seeing Akaza show up to the field, and I'm actually going to show the original arts for all this since I do have the translations right here. So as we see, we have the 5-1 Akaza here, looking pretty strong, 4k plus BP. Now let's see what this character can do. When he's on the front line, if your opponent's effect causes this character to leave the field, or if this character's BP to be reduced, you may move this character to the energy line instead. I think that that's actually insane. I think I love this ability so much. So pretty much what it's saying is that if a Gawain comes out and says, yeah, everything's gonna be lowered by 1k BP, you can move the Akaza back to the energy line and be like, nah, never mind. Or if it's a card that says, hey, kill this card or banish this card from the field, because it says removed from the field. It says leave the field. It doesn't say if this character would be put into the sideline. No, it says if it would cause this character to leave the field. So that means even banishing cards like Hollow Purple and kill cards like Divergent Fist, or even return to hand cards like Divergent Fist in some situations. Or I guess if we want to use a different example, Fishing Rod in certain situations. Then you can just move him to the energy line instead, have him stay on the field. Now you don't have to worry about losing an action point. Now, unfortunately, if your energy line is full, you will have to move something from your energy line to the removal area as a result. But I'd much rather have my big boy on the field still than have to worry about one of my energy cards being gone, because then this character is still able to generate energy even though he's moved to the energy line. He's still able to generate energy despite the fact that he won't be on the front line to protect things with the 4k BP that he has. Now, here's the thing. Since it's not a hard once per turn ability, you can allow this character to lose BP and have him stay on the front line instead. Like, oh, okay, I'm going to have your Akaza lose 1k BP. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll let that happen, because what's the point? What's the point? If he's just losing 1k BP, I'll leave him on the front line so he can block a chump blocker or something like that. Or, worst case scenario, they want to like flat out kill him. Like it says here in the card text. You may move this character to the energy line instead, meaning that, oh, choose a character on your opponent's field and have it lose BP? Okay, cool, I'm going to target this Akaza that's on the front line. No, I'm going to move it to the energy line. Even though it says field and Akaza would still be a valid target, since the text literally says instead, that means that instead of that BP being reduced in general, essentially it's a replacement ability, meaning that the effect of the card saying lower this character's BP is now being replaced with move this character to the energy line, which is really cool. I do like this ability. I think it's really strong, and I haven't even gone into the rest of this, so let me just start moving on because I could stay on this all day at this point. So on your turn, this character gets 1k BP, which is insane. 5k BP character on my turn? I'm doing some damage. But when played, if a character is killed during this turn, if a character was killed, not on your opponent's field, not on your field, if any character in the entire universe, I mean, obviously on the board, was killed, meaning my character, my opponent's character, as long as it was killed, I can set this character to active when it's played, and it only activates once per turn, so it's a hard once per turn. I can only bring one of these Akazas out onto the field. Even if I have 2 in my hand and one character died this turn, I can only play one of them set to active due to this ability. But that's still good, because now I have a 5k BP character that's a little bit protected, because hey, I'm going to swing my 5k BP Akaza first. Oh, I hit a special trigger. They're going to kill my 5k BP Akaza. I'm actually going to move him to the energy line instead, because that special trigger would cause my Akaza to leave the field. Therefore, I can just move him to the energy line instead. It's great. I actually love this Akaza. I can definitely see a lot of people running this Akaza, not to mention he has a draw trigger. And that draw trigger is going to go a long way in a lot of decks. Specifically, the Muzan deck is the one that pops into my mind first. But I can even see people using it in the Ducky Yutro deck as well, because having cards to draw into is just such a great trigger ability to have, and to have a 5k BP character that it is attached to that protects itself is really strong, and I do think that this card is going to be great. Last up, we have Rengoku, and as we know, or I'm not sure if people know, but in Volume 2, Rengoku does indeed get a raid, meaning that he will have his own deck to work off of when it comes to Volume 2. So, let's go ahead and see what this Rengoku is actually capable of. We do want to see a little glimpse into what this guy can do. So, when played, you get to choose one of the following effects. At 1500 BP, 1 energy, 1 action. 1500 BP makes sense, but he has the ability to generate possibly 2 energy. Let's see let's see how. Choose one of the following effects. So first you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 character card with Rengoku in its name among them, and add it to your hand. Place the rest on the bottom of the deck in any order, and if you add a card to hand, place one from your hand to the sideline, which I think is pretty cool. It's a good search card. You're able to search for more Rengoku, so let's say you start the game and you don't have a raid Rengoku, you can then use this Rengoku to look at the top 3 cards and hope that you hit a raid Rengoku to add it to hand, but of course you will have to place 1 card from hand to sideline. How will that affect things? Who knows, but hopefully this will help with the red rush down nature of things and help you get your Rengoku out a little bit quicker, especially considering how it says here, if you have 5 or more generated energy, you increase this character's generated energy by 1 during the turn, which is good, but that's only when he's played. So since you have to choose one of these abilities, you either get to search for the Rengoku or you get to generate 1 extra energy for the 1 turn that he is out. And I feel like that's only going to be used to get a card out that's going to be a pretty high cost card. As it says, 5 or more energy. Therefore, if you have 5 or more energy when he's played, then he is now generating the 6th energy. So if you are generating 6 energy, maybe his raid is 6 energy. Who knows? We will find out soon. If we do dive into Demon Slayer, again, let us know if you want us to dive into some future sets that are in Japan that we know are coming over to us, and we will definitely do that for you guys. So yeah, that's going to be it for Demon Slayer, and I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next set, which is going to be YuYu Hakusho. Now, we don't have anything YuYu Hakusho out just yet. We don't know anything about the set. In the English side of things, as you can see here, we have a few spoilers on some cards that are coming out. We see some Yusuke's, and let's just go ahead and start diving into stuff. So right here we have Toguro younger brother, which, as we know, we now have the 3 colors, purple, green, and red. We know that that's going to be coming. We see Kurama, we see Yusuke, we see Toguro, and yeah, so let's go ahead and start off with this effect. This character can only attack if a character was killed from your field by your effect this turn. Typical anime villain, wanting to kill off the teammates because they're not as strong as him. You know, it's like, wow, you're just fodder, get out of my sight, that type of deal. So I think it's cool that he can only attack at 1 energy 4k BP. That makes sense. That makes sense. If you have a 1k 4k BP or 1 energy 4k BP character on your field, you gotta have a drawback of some kind. And the drawback being that only if a character dies on your field this turn, that works. And it has to be by your effect, not your opponent's effect, by your effect. So, hypothetically speaking, you have that 0 energy card, tap it to generate an extra energy, you play the Toguro, or you have the Toguro on your front line. At the end of the main phase, that card dies. The 0 energy card that generates the extra energy dies. That's your own ability. So technically that Toguro can attack now, which is pretty cool. I like that. I think that's pretty cool. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how people do this. Also, this character cannot block characters with 35 or less BP. So the only thing he can block is 4k BP or higher characters, which will put him at a deficit, causing him to die. So that does kind of suck, but I think it's a perfect... I feel like both of these cards balance out the 4k BP on a 1 energy 1 action card, especially when it has a draw trigger. I think it's a perfect balance. So yeah. Next, let's move on to his main phase ability. When he's on the front line once per turn, you can kill 1 other character on your field. So you could also be able to attack by his own ability. And if you do, draw a card and he also generates energy on the front line. So that leads me to think that we're going to have a pretty decently high energy threshold for cards in purple as well, if this card is going to be able to generate energy on the front line. That, or maybe it's because since you're sacrificing energy usage by having this character on the front line in order to get more damage out quicker, maybe you need something to help you out, which would be the energy generation. And you only have to kill 1 other character on your field to get it. I feel like that's a win-win, considering how you will get that extra energy generation on the front line, as well as being able to attack. So I don't know, I feel like it's a good balance. Next up, we have the 1/1 Yusuke Urameshi. Everyone's main character for Yu Yu Hakusho. I mean, he's also the main character of Yu Yu Hakusho, so I don't... Anyways, so 1/1, 2k BP. When played, you may place the top card of your deck face down underneath this character. So it seems like we're going to be doing a lot of face down cards when it comes to green, possibly. Maybe it's just the Yusuke side of things. Maybe it could be the entirety of green. Who knows? We will find out once we start diving into those cards. But if you look at the main phase ability, on the main phase, you can rest this card once per turn. You will place one face down card that's under this character to the sideline, and if you do, you get to choose one of the following effects. You can either reduce the required energy of the next Yusuke you raid from your hand during this turn by 1, which makes me think that once again we're going to have a high threshold, which is very typical of green. We do see high energy thresholds out there for green, like we have Saitama with 15, we have Burt Holt with 10, so we will be seeing some high energy from this Yusuke possibly. Who knows what it's going to do. And you also have the other option of choosing one other character on your field to get 1k BP during the turn. So that's pretty cool because you're also able to buff up your character. You're also able to see them reach a higher level of BP to possibly reach over another character. And since it does target another character, you cannot increase this Yusuke's BP, which is why it doesn't have the plus symbol next to its BP symbol. But I still think that it's a pretty good ability because you're also able to help those characters, like I said, get over a character that they may have trouble getting over with otherwise. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I feel like this is a pretty solid card. I'm not sure how useful it's going to be specifically with this ability. I feel like this ability is going to be really good, but I don't know just how strong it's going to be. We'll have to wait and see. And last but not least, we have Kurama, the pretty boy, the one everyone loves. 1/1 for 2k BP. When this character is rated on, if you have 3 or less cards in your hand, draw a card. And then the when played of the rated character and this effect can be resolved in any order, meaning that you can choose to use the rated characters when played and then this character's ability, or you can use this character's ability and then the rated character's ability, which I think is really unique. To have a character have an ability that says, hey, if you raid on top of this card, I get an effect. I think that's really unique. I think that's really cool, and I really can't wait to see if there are going to be more Kuramas that have this same ability that says, hey, if you raid on top of this Kurama, you get this benefit, but if you raid on top of that Kurama, you get a different benefit. I think that's really unique. I love how YuYu Arena finds cool ways to incorporate new abilities into their cards, and I don't know, I feel like it's really great. I love it. I really do. And then last but not least, you have its when played ability, where you may place one card from your hand to the sideline, and if you do, choose a character on your field to get 2k BP during this turn. So you will be sacrificing a card, which thankfully with this ability, you will be able to replace that card that you get rid of if you do this in the same turn. But also, doing this helps you reach that 3 cards or less threshold, which makes you wonder if you're going to be using a lot of cards in red, therefore hitting this 3 or less threshold could be easier. It might be difficult, it might be easy, who knows? There's only one way to find out, and that's to wait till next month when YuYu Hakusho finally drops, and I cannot wait any longer. So yeah, that's it for YuYu Hakusho cards. Now we're going to move on to the next one. So for the last 3 cards, we have One Punch Man, and we are going to have to go to the official website and use the Google Translate option to translate these cards, but we were going to do our best to understand what these cards are doing. So first up, we have a 4/1 Tatsumaki at 4k BP, and it says here, something when on the front line. All right, after some like really slight sleuthing, I found out that this means on your turn. So on your turn, if it's on the front line, you may replace the event card listed on the effect of your yellow Tatsumaki the Terror and Fubuki the Hell with a event card or character card. Now, what does this mean? This is actually a pretty cool ability. So we're gonna go ahead and look for a card that I can use as a good example, which I'm gonna use the Fubuki the Hell card as an example. So add 1 event card without special from your sideline to hand. This now translates to add 1 event card or character card without a special from your sideline to your hand. So pretty much it allows you to use event cards or even character cards in any of effects that say event card. Wait a minute, where's the card? Where's that one card? Yeah, so, for example, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. Reveal up to 1 event card or character card among them and add it to your hand. Yeah, that's a good card. What the freak? What was that card on? What was it on? 4k BP 4/1. Okay. Yeah, no, that's going to be a menace, because you're definitely going to be putting her in the front line. you're definitely going to be putting her in the front line, and she has an active trigger. So I think active trigger is really good for the deck. It's another extra layer of protection that they already have good protection for. So they, frick, man. I think this deck's going to get a little bit stronger. I'm not sure by how much with this ability because I don't play the deck myself. I only play against it, and I already know how terrible the event cycle is. But hey, all you sister players, you guys get to have fun. Cool. All right, moving on. Metal Bat. All right, Metal Bat. Now, okay, so this, I think this one is your opponent's turn. The ending symbols are the same, which makes you think like it's like turn and stuff. And these symbols are different. So I'm thinking this one means opponent, while the other one means your. So since the other one is your, this one's on your opponent's turn. So on your opponent's turn, when a metal bat appears in your front line, when a raid metal bat appears in your front line that is not in raid mode, so pretty much with the raid's ability where you get to pretty much bring him back unraided but in rest, you may choose one of those characters that's in raid, that's not in raid mode, to activate it, give them 1k BP, and then place this character face up under the selected character, and they enter raid mode. That is really good. That's really good. So you essentially get to raid a character. That's really powerful. I think that's a really good ability. The only question I have, and it's an active trigger, which fits. It fits the hero agenda, which is the whole active trigger stuff. And I think it's really great because you also now have an extra metal bat to raid on top of, or you could even take out any metal bats that you weren't really sure of putting into the deck and have this metal bat be replacement for that metal bat that was going to be put in. Or like I said, have an extra metal bat that you can raid on top of. I think that's a really good way to go about things. But you get to re-raid one of the freaking metal bats that, so you get to free block and nullify impact with a metal bat, bring him back out, then use this metal bat to re-raid him, switch him to active. He's now a 5k BP blocker with nullify impact still, and he's able to block again. And then since it's not a once per turn ability, you can indeed activate this ability once again, which I think is so insane. I think that's such a good ability, and I really believe that Metal Bat is going to definitely see some more play in the future because of this one card. This one card I feel like definitely helps out the Metal Bat side of things because it just makes it a little bit stronger, it makes it a little bit better, and it makes it more reliable to block with because you get an extra block. You essentially get 5 blocks in a turn if you have a full front line. And that's amazing because this just says on your opponent's turn. He doesn't need to be in the front line. He can just be in the energy line generating energy. And then when you bring the raid one back, you just put him right underneath it. And I'm just saying, it's a really good ability. I like this. I like this card. I really like this card. I think Metal Bat's definitely going to see some light now. And then the last card that we're going to be going over today is a Sonic the Hedgehog. Not a speed of sound Sonic. This is now Sonic the Hedgehog canonically. So, for a 1/1 1500 BP character, when played, you get to choose one of these following abilities. So the first ability you get to choose is to look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 Sonic the Speed, and add it to your hand. Place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order, and if you add a card to your hand, remove one from your hand remove 1 card from your hand from play. Hold on. Place 1 card from your hand outside of the field. Yeah, so when you're doing this ability with Speed of Sound Sonic, or with Sonic the Hedgehog over here, you're removing it from play. You're putting it in the removal area, which I think is really nice because Speed of Sound Sonic relies on having 3 or less cards in your sideline. So since you're removing it from play, you're not hurting yourself from that ability by looking at the top 3 cards of your deck for another Sonic the Speed. And I think that that's a really great idea because, again, you're helping the deck. You're able to search a little bit deeper for more Sonic. You're able to search for the Raid Sonic or the 4-2 SR Sonic, which really will help out the game plan. But it doesn't overflow your sideline, so that way you're like not able to get the big abilities off for the Speed of Sound Sonic that you need to. Also, last but not least, you have a second ability. If this character was placed into play by your own effect, you may remove 1 card from your hand from play, and if you do, choose 1 character on your field to make it active. That is a really good ability. And this is why it's a great ability. So, you play this character set to active, and when played, you can play up to 1 red Speed of Sound Sonic with 2 or less required energy and 1 AP from your hand or sideline set to resting onto your field. So, if you target this one, which is a 1 energy card from your sideline or from your hand, and play him onto the field by your own effect, you can remove a card from your hand from play, put it into the removal area, not filling the sideline at all, thankfully, to choose a character on your field to make it active. So if you have a character that was forced to stay set to resting, or if, let's say, you just played a different card onto the field, you can then switch that card to active. And even if you don't have a card that you can switch to active, since this card's coming into. And yeah, so yeah, like I said, you can either switch another speed of sound, another card that you just played, switch to resting, and if you don't have another card that you why did my brain stop working? If you don't have another card that you already have active or set to resting onto the field, there we go. If you don't have another card that's already set to resting onto your field that you just played that turn, you can then switch this card to active that you got out with the 4/2 Sonic's ability to active to get another extra attack through. Or you could leave this card set to resting, not use that ability, search your deck for a Speed of Sound Sonic, hit a Raid Sonic, and then raid on top of this rested card. You get to choose one of these abilities when he's played, so you don't have to switch something active, you can choose to search. And I think that this card is going to make Speed of Sound Sonic another good deck. I feel like these two cards are going to make the decks a lot stronger, and this card is just going to make the deck even more hated in my eyes. You know, I just personally don't like it. I don't know why I don't vibe with them, I just don't. They're just not a vibe, really. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. It's a longer video, but it's something that I feel like is somewhat important to talk about, because I do think that whenever it comes to the inclusion of new cards, even if it's just in the Japan side of things, I think it's important for us to talk about it, because we are also playing the same game as the people over in Japan, just a few steps behind them. So I do believe that it is important to talk about how Code Geass got some extra cards, Demon Slayer, YuYu Hakusho got extra cards, and even One Punch Man got a few cards as well. I think it's important to talk about this because now we're able to see what's coming into the future. How are the decks that are faring maybe not so well now? Like, you don't see Metal Bat that often, but when you do see Metal Bat can pop off sometimes. But after this, you're like, oh shoot, Metal Bat's gonna pop off. When you see the Speed of Sound Sonic, you're like, oh, okay, Speed of Sound's got some more flair to him. When you see this Tatsumaki, you can be like, oh, okay, here comes Esper Sisters. Okay, they're doing the same shenanigans. Oh, that's a character card, not an event card. That's great for me. Hooray! Huzzah! Yippee! Yippee! So yeah, I think it's great. I am really excited. I hope that my theory is correct, that we will see these Demon Slayer cards in Volume 2. I don't think we'll see these cards in YuYu Hakusho when it drops. Who knows? We might. We might. There's always a possibility that we might. But I don't think that we'll see it. And truthfully, I do believe that we probably won't see any of these cards. It is a very real possibility that we won't see any of these cards until the start of next year, when the next volume of store tournaments start happening, which I'm okay with. I'm actually okay with that idea, because that gives us a time to play with the vanilla versions of these decks before we get the extra cards and are able to include them into the decks or not. It's very similar to the Bleach 1000-Year Blood War card set that we are going to be receiving next month. If you did order it, it will be coming out next month. Can't wait for those, because I do want to make some big changes to a few of the Bleach decks that I personally built. But most importantly, I feel like it's important for you to understand what you're working with first before you want to add something new to it. So seeing these cards here, it's like, oh wow, these cards are really powerful. I think these 3 cards are going to really make or break some cool, amazing strategies for Code Geass. So let's see just how well they can be implemented into this deck that I've already built and spent time with and played and labbed with and changed and modified and made better and made worse at times, but ultimately it's now at its peak performance. How are these cards going to influence how I play this deck now? Are they going to make it worse? Are they going to make it better? Is my game plan not compatible with these new cards? Is my game plan going to be hyper compatible with these new cards? Like, for example, you play the Rolo deck, you're constantly resting stuff. So having this Lelouch, it's like, oh shoot, this Lelouch is highly compatible with it. But if you're not making a Rolo deck that's focused on resting, if you're making a Rolo deck that's different from the core resting mechanic that it has, this Lelouch isn't going to serve you well, because hey, I'm experimenting with the new build of Rolo. It doesn't involve resting as frequently as the deck particularly wants. So this Lelouch doesn't necessarily help out the deck. So I think it's really interesting, because you do get to see, again, how creative people are when it comes to building decks. Now, don't get me wrong, I can definitely see a high possibility of every single blue Demon Slayer deck you come across running 4 of these Nezuko's, every single deck that you run across running them. Or, I mean, obviously the Tanjiro Nezuko version, because it specifically focuses on Tanjiro Nezuko, but I feel like any deck that has a Tanjiro in it or a Nezuko in it is going to be running at least 4 of these. I say at least 4, knowing that 4 is the max, but that's how positive I am that this Nezuko is going to be a really good card. It's a 0 card. It has a trigger. It's you know. Anyways, yeah, so that's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching today's video. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you think. Your thoughts. Prayers, even? Prayers? No, but thank you all for watching today's video. Go ahead and like if you like the video, subscribe, and yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Be safe out there.